bet you couldn't talk your way out of that one, could you? We hear a lot of people, and I guess we all know a lot of people who talk their way out of anything. And in our careers, it's actually about what can we talk our way into. And a lot of us are very nervous about doing that. It's that whole thing about, we've got to blow our own trumpet, got to sell ourselves. We don't like doing that. Interestingly, a lot of salespeople I work with also hate selling themselves. So you're not alone on that one. Now, I think it's important to understand that actually it's very beneficial for you and for other people to be able to sell yourself. All right. So number one, if you can't tell your boss how good you are, how are you going to get the best result from your performance appraisal? What about at a job interview? You're actually doing the interviewer a favour if you can tell them how good you are and the difference you make in your current company and in other things that you've done. How can they make a good business decision for their business if you haven't told them what you can do for them? So the other thing is, if you don't, somebody else will, and they'll get the jobs that you want and possibly that you deserve, and possibly that you're even better at than them. And they'll get them because they're better at talking about themselves. So you kind of need to learn this skill. It's really valuable to you. So you'll get more of the jobs that you want if you learn to do that. The other thing, and I think the thing that I notice with people is, once you've learnt to talk about yourself, and listen, I'm going to tell you in a minute some really easy strategies to help you do that. Once you learn to do that, things like interviews, performance appraisals, client conversations, network conversations become a whole lot easier and more comfortable and more successful, which is more to the point, I guess, isn't it? So let me give you some really quick, simple strategies. And that's the great thing about a lot of stuff about managing your career, is it's very simple. And once you learn how to do it really well, it really skyrockets your career. And consequently, you feel a lot better in the rest of your life, I guess, as well. So let's just go through that. So you may have come across a model called the STAR model. Now, that stands for situation, task or target, depending on who you read, actions and results. And my WHO model very much relates to that in terms of how it works. In that aspect of it, the WHO model goes a lot deeper and covers things like what you want from work, what your goals are, your beliefs, your values, ultimately your mission and your purpose. So just in this aspect, this is about your contributions and talking about yourself. And STAR was developed back in the 1960s. So these sort of frameworks have been around for a long time. But the first thing is to make sure you know all the different things you've done, the whats. What have you done? What are the situations and tasks that you've done? And where have you done them? And what about the actions, the how you did them? If you can talk about those things and tell a story, it engages people. So think of a time when you did something. Tell a story about it and people understand not just what you did, but who you are as a person and what they're going to get if they employ you, or what they're going to get and what you've done in your business if it's a performance appraisal, or what you could do for them if they're a potential client or if they're someone in your network. So it's really useful to be able to do that. And the final bit of those models is about the benefits. So that's the results bit of the STAR, the outcomes bit of the WHO model. And that's about not just telling people like kind of, I did what I said I would do. I hope you would tell them that. But it's also telling them what are the bigger benefits of what you did. So who did it benefit? How did it benefit them? What were the results of those benefits? So it's a bit like me saying, okay, so I produced a report and it was on time and on budget. Well, so what? What did it allow anyone to do? How did I do it? What were the details of how I did it? So if you can build a portfolio of stories that get across what you did, how you did it, and the outcomes, you've got a really nice sort of portfolio of examples that you can call on. And because you've put the effort in, you'll find that people say this to me when they come back from interview. Actually, I find it always makes me smile because they come back and they say, "Oh, it was like magic. They asked me a question and boom, the answer was there. Because they'd gone through, they prepared, they practiced, and they were able to talk and give examples about things they've done. So that's really, really useful for you in all of those situations that I mentioned. And there's one other thing that I'd like to add there as well, outside of any frameworks, is just learn to answer the question, tell me about yourself. Because as one of the most common things that's asked in an interview, you'll get asked it by recruiters, you'll get asked it by people in your network as well. So it can be useful in all sorts of situations. And it's the difference between someone who just gives a list of dates and job titles, or someone who tells a story that gets across the things that they were enthusiastic about, how their careers developed, the things that they've done to make a difference. So it's a fuller story. It's engaging. It says, why am I hearing this conversation now? Particularly if you're in an interview, you can build that in. Talk about your career, the things that you've done, the differences that you've made, and how it aligns with the differences you could make in this particular job that you're interviewing for. So something that's worth thinking about, also very useful, as I say, in network situations, in lots of different scenarios. So you may want to have shorter versions and longer versions of it. But there's some really powerful stuff there for you to go away and act on. So learn your who stories and practice delivering them, and just create that story about who you are in terms of how would you describe yourself and your history when someone says, well, just tell me a little bit about yourself. And remember, that could include the outside of work stuff as well as the inside of work stuff. I'll leave you with that. Have some fun with it. And just notice how your confidence increases as you start to get really familiar with just how good you are.